Okay. Next, we're going to go to Andy from Austria. Little long here, so I'm gonna curve it a little. Hi, Chris and Jason. Thank you for your great podcast and great podcast for PPC. Here comes my question. Recently, I've been finding more and more search terms in the search term report that don't appear to have been entered by humans. Then he gives some specific examples about that. And he says, basically, the problem is he can't easily exclude these because they still contain some relevant terms. And, you have to be careful about those, adding too many of those, that could actually block relevant traffic. So basically, his question is, how do you get rid of long, unwanted search terms? And do you worry about them if they have 0 clicks, if they spent 0 money, just received an impression? Jason.
So I think it would be interesting for people who talk about Google Ads to maybe talk about them at the Thanksgiving dinner table, but replace the word Google Ads with the word government and see how people look at you at that Thanksgiving table, because you'd be sitting there going, do you think the government has bots that are trying to fraud us and monitor us? Or do you think the government is getting a lot of stuff in front of us that shouldn't be there and is spamming it? You might sound a little crazy, is my point. And it's kind of interesting how some people talk about Google Ads and they put all this stuff onto Google and all this stuff they're doing, where maybe it's just a computer system and algorithms. And you know what I'm saying, Chris? People I think they put too much. Google's doing this, Google's doing that, bots and.
But what if it's not Google? What if it's other people? What if there is an incentivized reason?
Do you run into a lot of bots when you're doing Google Ads?
I have some proof of things in not Google.
Okay, pass the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
I have some proof that the government's doing this and that, everybody. I have some proof.
I've seen
some proof, Chris? Okay.
I've seen some stuff. But so whether it's a bot or not is absolutely not the point of Andy.
Fine.
His point is, what do you do about it? And what do you do to get rid of these long, unwanted search terms? So I'll tell you my answer to that is, how do you get rid of them? You just add one base term from those that you see. So if there's the word in there,
corridor.
Review.
Yeah, and Andy gave us an example about it has the word corridor in those super long search term. So if you really don't like the word corridor, or he's also got the number 50 in there, and you don't like the number 50, add 50 as a negative.
That's it.
Broad negative.
Yeah. And broad negative. I use broad negatives and I grab one single part of that. And even if it has no clicks, but I see that it's some kind of junk weird thing, I'll add one term in there and then leave it. Now, you cannot add negative keywords for something that's over 10 words long. So you can't add all of them.
You can add negative keywords for something that's over 10 words long. You can add a negative keyword to block a search term that was over 10 words long. But you can't add negative keywords that are more than 10 words in the negative keyword. Just to clarify.
That I am more confused now for your clarification.
You said you can't add negative keywords for things that are more than 10 words long. You can add a negative keyword for a search term that came in as more than 10 words.
You just don't add all of those 10 words.
Yeah, you can't add
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Just trying to help, Chris.
Translate Chris. So helpful.
Okay, just trying to help. It could have come off as you can't add negative keywords for search terms that were more than 10 words long.
You're right.
You're
right. You're right. Thank you so much.
Okay. So and then the fact that you would say that after saying block the core term, it's like, why are you talking about 10 words? Of course, we're not going to add a 10-word negative keyword if we're trying to block the core.
You are feisty today.
I'm not feisty. I'm not feisty. It's not you. It's just I'm just over caring what other people think. This has to do with other stuff I do
now?
Online. Yeah.
Just now?
Yeah, just now, by the way.
Just now.
Yeah, just now. No, I'm serious. Just now. So
just now.
When something's stupid and wrong, I'm not gonna act like, oh, that's I could see it from your point of view, talking about 10 words, negative keywords.
Oh, okay. All right.
A lot of people ask, well, I'm scared if I add a one word broad negative keyword that I'm going to block a bunch of stuff I don't want to block. My impression, Chris, you can let me know if you agree, is that broad match negative is basically treated how exact match positive used to be treated, in the sense that if you add the word corridor as a negative broad keyword, all you're going to block is just searches that include the word corridor, possibly a misspelling of corridor, but you're not going to block searches that are related to corridor, like hallway or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're safe with broad negative. For me, that's the way I think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. There's definitely there's a value to every single match type for negative keywords. I use broad, phrase, and exact.
You use all kind of those negatives.
Yes, I use all three.
At the same time or in different situations?
At the same time.
So if you didn't like the word corridor, you would add corridors.
No, if I won't go into it on this, but I have a very specific methodology that I use, which I demonstrate very, very specifically in my Patreon.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. So you add, if you didn't like a search that include corridor, you would add corridor as a negative exact and a negative broad?
No.
Okay.
Only a broad.
Good. Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
So do you see my point here, Chris, about bots and Google doing this and Google doing that and people overthinking things, and more so like, hey, you got a search term. You didn't like the search term. Add the one freaking word out of those 10 in the phrase and move on, and you've blocked your problem, and you don't have to stress about the bots or the empire or whatever. You know what I mean? You see how it makes things simple? So that's kind of where I was coming at with that.
And Andy's question was, he was asking about, do you worry about them if they have 0 clicks? No. I mean, I don't worry about them. I do just what Jason said. I add that one part and I move on. Now, I only worry about something if it becomes something that spends money and it starts to pop up higher and higher in my search term feed.
I get that. And so if something doesn't get clicks as a search term, then you don't have to worry about it because you're not spending money on it. So who cares if it's irrelevant, whatever. You're not spending money. The one caveat to that, Chris, I think you'll agree with this. If you get a search term in there that is getting a ton of impressions and you're not getting clicks on it, if you don't like the search term, you're not getting clicks on it, so you don't have to worry about wasting money on it. But all those impressions are racking up impressions that you're not getting clicks, and that can hurt your click-through rate, which can hurt your quality score. So I think once a month, every now and then, it is worth going into your search terms, sorting by impressions, search terms with the most impressions, and go down the first 80% of them, the ones that are getting the bulk of your impressions, first 80% of your impressions, and see if there's anything you don't like in there. Because you also don't want to just have a bunch of impressions out there not getting clicks, even if you're happy you're not getting clicks from them. You don't want to be hurting your click-through rate,
Yeah.
So that's another thing to look. But yeah, one final thing on search terms and bad search terms, Chris. Right around the time we lost the 30-40% of search terms on average that we're not seeing anymore, it seemed like we started seeing a lot more 0-click, one impression long tail search terms.
That's what Google did. Whenever there was a giant uproar, what they did is they stepped to the side a little. They don't ever back up.
Oh, the government doesn't back up. No, they just stepped to the side. That's what they did.
They stepped a little bit to the side. They said, "Oh, you don't like what we did? Well, how about we just pivot a little?" And they said, "We're going to give you more data on your search terms overall." So that's when they initiated that 0-click but had an impression data. Because before it was only stuff we got clicks on. They took away part of them. They supplemented that with stuff we didn't get clicks on.
Okay, which is fine. They did what they did, and what are you going to do about it? We're going to do nothing about it.
It's a great decision.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, my point is, we just have to take things as they come, and that's what we got now. So I think one mistake people are making with that is they're constantly worried about those ones, and they're constantly trying to add negative keywords to block a bunch of those bad searches. But and those ones seem to be bad for some reason. There seem to be a lot of low quality ones.
Junky. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess my point is the one mistake you might make hanging down there where there's not a ton of impressions, not hurting your click-through rate, but just weird search terms, 0 clicks, 1-2 impressions, you could be wasting a lot of time down there adding negatives for things that don't really matter. And it's one of those things, like if you have a mess on the side of your room, you just don't look in the mess. It's like, it doesn't feel good. You'd rather go clean up the mess. But in this case, you can't really clean it up because you'll keep seeing stuff down there. So just let it go is my point.
Yeah. Or, clean your room. But okay, that's fine.
Clean your room, but spend another 20 minutes a week adding search terms that are never going to impact, negatives that are never going to impact anything.
Yeah.
Probably not the best use of time.
It is a waste.